Where else would you rather be? I'm Paul Clifford, CEO of the Penn State Alumni Association. Welcome to the People of Penn State. Each week on the podcast, you can expect to hear the voices of Penn Staters talking about what they're passionate about, and you can expect to feel the pride and the power of the Penn State network. Well, today, I'm especially excited to welcome Caroline Bowman, originally from the DMV, is now currently starring in Disney's Frozen North America tour as Elsa. She's also been seen on tour around the world in Evita, Spamalot, Greece, and Fame in China. Numerous regional credits to her name. She's performed with multiple symphonies, including the North Carolina Philharmonic, the Dayton Philharmonic, and numerous cabarets and concerts in and around New York City, including her own solo show. She holds a BFA in musical theater from right here at Penn State. And in 2014, she was the recipient of Penn State's Alumni Achievement Award. Welcome to the People of Penn State, Caroline Bowman. Caroline, how are you today?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
Good. I'm excited to talk to you. A little nervous. I mean, you're an old pro at doing all this media, this media stuff and performing, and we're just running our podcast here at the Alumni Association. So you may be the biggest star we've ever had.
Oh my gosh, I'm honored.
No offense to our other 40 people that we've had on the podcast. All right, before I put my foot in my mouth anymore, Caroline, how did you become a Penn State Nittany Lion?
So I had a friend who went to Penn State. I knew going into high school that I was going to go to school for musical theater, and I wanted a Bachelor of Fine Arts. But I also wanted a school that was a little bit more balanced. I wanted to be able to go to football games, which my dad was really excited about. I wanted to, I have friends outside the musical theater program. So Penn State was a awesome fit for me because Penn State's specific musical theater program is really like a conservatory within the university. So I got to have the best of both worlds, and I fell in love with the program. I also met one of my voice teachers or somebody who ended up being my voice teacher at Penn State, Mary Saunders, who is no longer a teacher there. But I did a workshop with her 2 years before college and fell in love with her. And I was like, I want her to teach me voice. And she was at Penn State. So that's the short version of how I got to Penn State.
Awesome. So as a student here, I know the commitment of time that musical theater students give to their craft. What were you involved with at Penn State?
I mean, outside of the musical theater program, not much. Because honestly, I was in like 9 a.m., either 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. ballet or jazz class. And that went from 9 to, my classes went from 9 to 3 or 4 in the afternoon. And then sometimes I had rehearsal after that. So it was like I had rehearsals for shows at school that went to the night. So I had very, very full days when I was at school. So I tried to get a little bit involved in Thon, but then it conflicted with show schedules and stuff like that. So I was a big supporter of Thon. I lived with 4 other roommates or a bunch of other girls that were not in the musical theater program. So I had nursing majors, kinesiology majors, advertising, across the board. And they're all still some of my best friends. And so I got to kind of live vicariously through them and their extracurricular activities. But I lived in that theater building. I was really in the theater and music building a lot.
A familiar story when we talk to alumni from the musical theater program, one of our renowned programs here at Penn State. So to kind of take us into your experience as a musical theater student, what were the shows you performed in? Did you know that you wanted to be on stage when you came to Penn State versus behind the scenes? Because there's so many aspects to being a musical theater major here at Penn State. Talk us through your journey.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I always knew I wanted to be a performer. Um I've been singing my whole life, dancing my whole life. I'm my mom's an actor, so I went to school knowing I was going to be on stage. But yes, you're right. The entire program, the BFA in musical theater is very strictly musical theater majors who are performing. But then there's BA in acting. You can get a stage management. You can get costume design. You can like there's so many. So you're right about that. Like there's so many different career paths you can take in theater and specifically. But yes, I wanted to be a performer. I Yeah, so I was in what shows was I in at Penn State? It wasn't yesterday that I went to Penn State, so I gotta think about this. I mean, it was the day before yesterday.
Sure.
But so I remember getting cast in my first show. It was Big River sophomore. I was in because they don't usually let freshmen into shows. You have to do a crew credit. You have to learn all different sides of what it takes to put on a show, which I actually think makes you a more well-rounded, grateful performer and humble performer. You knowing knowing like what your crew does, what your costume supervisors do. I mean, there's just so much that makes a Broadway production happen. And so I had to take all those classes too and had to learn about that. So freshman year, I wasn't in a show. And then sophomore year, I remember getting cast in Big River and I was so excited. And I was in the ensemble and I was just so grateful to be in a show in college. And then what's so special about Penn State too is that and our professors are just amazing. Oh my gosh, just so amazing. They had all these uh, different programs they would bring in from other places. So we had this thing called Cultural Conversations, which Susan Russell, who just recently retired, she was musical theater history teacher. She brought in this thing called Cultural Conversations where they would bring in works of other cultures and just to make it a more diverse learning experience and that we could learn about other cultures through art. And that's, I mean, that's art is a conversation and especially plays and musicals and it just made it more of a learning experience and we could kind of do these shows for the first time on their feet at Penn State. And so I got to sorry about that. I got to do that and then we got to do some new works. They brought in like new writers and stuff. We got to perform new shows there. Junior year, I did a show called Romance, which was off Broadway, and I had never heard of it before I did it, and so that was fun to learn a brand new show. And but yeah, I actually before I graduated Penn State, I ended up booking my first professional gig and leaving a little early and then coming back and graduating still on time. But that's kind of a a segue to that, to my professional career. So I didn't end up doing a lot of shows my senior year because I kind of cut that off.
Absolutely. Well, let's jump into that. This is the People of Penn State. I'm Paul Clifford. I'm joined today by Caroline Bowman from the American tour of Frozen, where she plays a starring role of Elsa. So, Caroline, take us into that. Your senior year at Penn State interrupted by, the start of your professional journey. So, tell us about that.
So it was Penn State was really amazing, especially all my professors. I between junior and senior year, I said, I'm just going to go to New York and audition for whatever I'm right for and see if I, can get any traction. And I auditioned for two things and got them both. And one was a reading of a new musical. And for those of you who don't know, like the very, very beginnings of shows, you start with basically you readings and you cast a reading and you sit around and you read the script and try to see what works and throw spaghetti against the wall. And then it gets more and more involved. with workshops, and then they do like smaller productions to bigger productions, and then eventually it gets to Broadway. So yes, so I auditioned for a reading, I got that, and then I auditioned for the international tour of Fame, and it was going to China, and I ended up booking that, and it was going to start rehearsals on or around our Thanksgiving break of my senior year, which is 2009, and go for 3 months to like beginning of February. Excuse me. And so I was like, there's no way I can do this. I want to do my senior year. I want to graduate with my friends. I want to finish on time so that I can get to New York faster. Like, just, I didn't think it was going to be an option. And then my mom, who is awesome, said to me, why don't you try to see if this could work? And so I was like, okay. So I called every single one of my professors, every single one of my theater professors. And I said, if I'm in good standing, which I was, could I finish the semester early, take my finals right before Thanksgiving break, and be done first semester senior year then, and then come back a little late. So it kind of was perfect timing because we could finish Thanksgiving, or I could do Thanksgiving break, which is like a week off. And then we've got like a 3-week to a month off for the holiday break. And so I called every single professor and they all agreed to letting me do it. So then I had to call my gen eds, which I think at the time I was taking sign language, which was awesome. And like a jogging class. I think I was taking a jogging class. And I went to both of those professors and I said, hey, I'm a musical theater major. I booked this job. Would you let me take my final early? And they were like, it would be kind of silly. This is what you want to do for your life. Like, it'd be kind of silly for me to say no, right? And they were both so cool about it. And so I got to leave early, go to China, do a show there, see the other side of the world, and then come back in February and finish my senior year. And it was like so cool. And I'm not sure if I went, I'm not sure many other schools would have like really been supportive of that. And obviously everything fell into place. Like I was ahead of I had gotten a lot of my gen eds done. I'd gotten a lot of my credits done. But like the fact that I called every single one of my professors and they were like, this is cool with us. If this is what you want to do, you just have to make sure you come back and work hard and then you can finish on time. And I did. And it was awesome. I mean, it's just so awesome. I just love that they were so supportive of that. And
that's amazing, right? You go to college to get a job, right? And sometimes that job appears before you even graduate from college, right? We use that argument all the time when we talk about student athletes who go pro in football or go pro early in basketball. You did it from the musical theater program, which is amazing. So you graduate from Penn State. So you come back from China, you graduate from Penn State. Walk us through your early career.
So I got back from China, finished school, and then I did a production at the Downtown Theater of Smokey Joe's Cafe. I think that was after that. Or no, maybe that was after that. Sorry. It's hard to think about the timing. And I had already, when I got back, I can't remember the timing. When I got back from China, I auditioned for the national tour of Spamalot, which is coming back to Broadway. If anybody involved is listening to this, I'll be available soon. So I did the national tour of Spamalot for about a year after that. And that took me into 2011 and I finished that, knew I wanted to move to New York after that. Like I was like, great, I'm ready to go try my hand at getting on Broadway in New York. I'm so sorry. I feel like I thought I turned off my notifications, but anyway.
We're not hearing anything if that's.
Oh, good. I'm so glad. It's on my end. Okay, great. I turned off my notifications, but it's still dinging. So, yes, I wanted to move to New York and try my hand at getting on Broadway, and I moved there in October of 2011, and 3 weeks later, I got a job. I got an audition to audition for Elphaba understudy in Wicked on Broadway. And I was like, cool, this is a good job for me. And I auditioned and I got it 3 weeks after moving to New York, which is insane. And that was when luck meets opportunity meets preparation, whatever that saying is. It just literally was, I had an opportunity open up right at the same time that I was starting my New York journey, and it worked out. So then I did Wicked, and I understudied the lead role for about 10 months. And while I was doing that, I got the workshop of Kinky Boots, which again is like the precursor to anything on Broadway. And I was in the ensemble of Kinky Boots, the original cast. And I left Wicked to go to the out-of-town tryout of that in Chicago, and came back and did Kinky Boots on Broadway. And from Kinky Boots, I booked the national tour of Evita, and that's when I was taking my star turns, and I was playing Evita and Evita. And after that, I played Elphaba in Wicked on Broadway for a long time. Went back to Kinky Boots and played the role I understudied, which was Nicola. And then from Kinky Boots, I booked Frozen. That kind of like brings us up. Again, that's a condensed version. I started condensing because it can be a long story.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But were there, so am I to understand it? Like you went from Penn State and have worked like consistently in the business?
I have worked pretty consistently. Of course, in there have been some babysitting jobs. There have been some side hustles. During the pandemic, I taught voice lessons kind of for the first time. That was like dipping my toes in a different area. I had taught a little bit. I've done workshops, and I've done just other teaching things, but not really full time. And I was kind of, in a way, forced into that during the pandemic. But yes, for the most part, since I graduated Penn State, I have made a career working on stage as a theater actor.
That's amazing.
It's been pretty cool. I'm so grateful. I don't take any moment, any day for granted that I get to do this. I'm so lucky.
Take us into the mindset of an actor, right? Who is working on stage, right? You have a consistent gig, but like you just alluded to earlier, you're coming up on the end of the show. What is the mindset to keep focused on what you're doing, but also to be thinking about, all right, how do I land what's next? Like, how do I prepare myself to move on?
I always say auditioning is the job and booking the job is the reward. Like having, and also I've been really lucky to have long running jobs. Like I've had like booked a job and known I was going to have a job for a year, which is very rare for an actor. It's not always the case. So yeah, the work never stops. You never can get complacent or, you kind of like, I take voice lessons every 2 weeks. I'm always working on my voice. I'm never done that. We're never done learning. You're always, every experience, every person you meet can be a character study. I mean, that's really like a lot of like my main advice for young people, especially coming up in this industry, is that you're never done learning. And you got to keep working hard. You can't ever stop.
Good
But
advice for anybody in any industry, right?
I agree. But like there is, you think you come to a point where you're like, cool, I can like chill out a little bit and just coast. And I really don't think that, I think that my industry, because this is what I know, is not for you if you want to coast, because you got to keep looking for the next thing. You got to keep your eyes out, but it's also what keeps it awesome. It's like, it's scary, and people, I guess, using the word unstable, whatever, that's the word.
Unstable?
Unstable, not sorry, Penn State.
Well,
I got a great education. Unstable, not instable. That's where horses live.
sure.
So yes, people can call our industry unstable, but it's also like what keeps it so interesting. I get to play so many different characters, and I have loved. I've been playing Elsa. Well, I guess since 2019, I've been playing Elsa,
Right.
minus 18 months of a pandemic. And I love her still. I love her so much, which is why I can play her for so long. And she's so fun, and she still challenges me. And it's a fun sing, and I get to be a queen. And so I keep it interesting, and but I get to explore so many different roles and people, and I think that's what's so fun about it. So you never know what's right around the corner. You really don't know what's going to happen next, and that is scary and awesome. It's both
Yeah.
of the things. So
take us back. You alluded to this earlier, but take us back to 2020, right? Frozen had just launched, right? You're in Portland, Oregon, which is a city that we have spent a little bit time in. My family would love Portland, and then COVID hits. Take us back to that time as a performer. What that was like. You talked about your side hustles during COVID, but take us back through your experience through COVID and through that time.
Yeah. So like you said, we had just started the tour. We were 5 or 6 months into the tour. We started it at the end of 2019. And so we were hearing like different grumblings of COVID, and that we might shut down. And I was like, no way. Theater's not going to shut down. And lo and behold, on that same day as everybody else, March 12th, we had a company meeting at the theater. We were all called in, and we were sitting in the theater, no masks. And our company manager was like, okay, you guys you need to pack your bags and tell us where you need to go. Like, where do we need to fly you to? And we're like, what? And meanwhile, my husband used to be out on the tour. He was playing Prince Hans, so we were touring together. We had our car and our dog, and we got rid of our New York City apartment before tour because we were like, cool, we're going to go on tour for a couple of years and then come back and buy an apartment or something in New York. Like, that was our plan. We were like, great, this is going to set us up for our next chapter. So we didn't have a home, really. We didn't have anywhere to go. And my parents are in Maryland, his parents are in Virginia. And so we were like, let's just hang tight. They told us it was only going to be 2 weeks. And we had this Airbnb in Portland that was lovely, and our hosts were amazing. And so me and my husband and 5 other cast members like shacked up in this Airbnb, and luckily it was a big Airbnb, so we could kind of spread out, and we just like kind of made the best of it and made dinners, and at least we weren't alone, and we got to be together, and we sang and had movie nights. And actually the beginning was kind of lovely, and they kept just kind of moving the dial inch by inch for our show, like not really telling us when it was going to come back, and nobody knew. And so we stayed out there for about 6 weeks, and then they finally gave us a longer away, like it was like June, and it was still, I guess it was the beginning of May, and they were like, end of June we'll be back. And so I turned to my husband and I was like, I think we gotta start making our way back east and trying to figure out what we're gonna do. So at the beginning of May, we traveled back east, and I called my mom and I was like, hey mom, can we come live with you? We don't. And she was like, of course you can. And so yeah, and then we stayed in Maryland, which is where I'm from, for basically 18 months, with my parents. And luckily that was so kind of them. And that was where our stuff was living. Like we kind of stored our boxes in my parents' basement generously, which we are soon getting out of their basement. They are still currently there. And and then it took us a while. Like it was like, I know it was like this for everybody. Like it was hard to know what to do. And obviously we knew our industry, we need people to gather. We need people to want to come together as a community and watch a live performance. We need that. And
Right.
so I knew our industry was going to be like one of the last ones to kind of get back on their feet, which was also just a wild experience. So, yeah, I cannot believe, I actually still can't, I think I'll say it for the rest of my life. I can't believe we lived through that. And
Absolutely. You know, think about, you talked about you're in a continuous process of learning and growing as a performer. Anything that stands out to you about the performer you were before COVID and the
yeah,
performer you are today?
I think I'm a little less afraid, if that makes sense. I find myself less fearful because I'm like, I don't know, it was taken away from us. And so I find that I'm a little bit more bold, which is such a gift. Um yeah, I think I don't have as much of imposter syndrome. I'm like, no, this is what I'm supposed to do. And I believe it fully with my heart. Like, I'm like, I belong here and I deserve to be here, and I earned this. So if there's ever like, because we all have our little demons and that say like, you're not good enough.
Yeah.
I, I, I'm able to squash them a little bit more, I think. And I think that's in part because it was the rug was pulled out from under us, and
Right.
so now I know how it feels, and I don't want that to happen again. And so I'm just going to do everything I can not to let it happen.
Well,
I-
when you see the end of the world, right? Things that seemed like it was the end of the world don't matter as much as they do, right?
yeah, isn't that yeah, it's wild. Like I'm so glad we didn't see the end of the world because I have a lot more living to do, but uh yeah, I think that's a little bit it. I
Yeah.
think I yeah.
You've been playing Elsa since 2019. So my question is, what's what motivates you? Like, how do you turn it on every night as if it's opening night?
I I really do try to, I mean, think of myself as an audience member, especially as a kid, and how it felt to watch those performances, especially if I'm like having a tired day. I'll say there are people out there who are seeing their first Broadway show. And and a lot of people out there, especially with Frozen, are seeing their first Broadway show. And so I gotta make it as magical as I can for them. Um, so I think about that, and I really put myself in their shoes. And but I also reinvigorate it. Like I'm like, cool, you're feeling a little tired today, or you're feeling a little under. Really invest in this scene in a different way, or really sing this song a little bit differently. Like add a little flair that you don't usually do. And so I try to like make it challenging and make it fun for myself, and fun in ways like that. Yeah. So I have a good time. I really love my job.
That's awesome. My wife and I often talk about whether we could work together or not. And you alluded to this earlier. I know you and your husband, Austin, had the opportunity to do that for a stretch.
Yeah.
People talk about sharing their successes with somebody special, but you actually shared the entire experience with him. What was that like to work alongside of him?
It was awesome. It's so awesome. We have been together. We're going on our 11th year together, and we've been married 6 years this year. And we've only seen each other in shows and supported each other. But so this was our first time working together, and also like creating a show together, because we were the original cast of the tour. So we were in rehearsal space together, and then we went home together. Like we're just 24/7. But I respect him so much as an artist and a human, and he respects me a lot. And so it was just, we're really good at putting on those hats. Like when we're at work, we're professionals, we're coworkers, we're working professionals, but like he's like one of my favorite performers to watch. So I actually, in the show, and it's still in the show because it's in my track, but I come off stage for a little bit and I have like my queen outfit on. I have a big cape, so I can't really walk around, especially if my dressing room is really far away. So I have this stool that they've made, the Elsa stool, so that I could sit off stage and watch the scene happening, which was my husband's scene, and now it's the guy, the Prince Hans who plays it now. But I sit off stage and watch him do his thing every night, and it's cool. I loved working with him. I hope I get to do it again. And also I know, a lot of this industry, it's hard to be in a relationship with another actor too that does the same thing, because sometimes you have to go where the work is. And so we're in a long distance relationship, and I think we do it really well, considering how, but you do have to consider that you're going to not be with your partner at all times. And I love my partner so much. And so I want to be with him all the time. But we both know that we chose this career, and it might not be our first love, but it's our second love, because we're each other's first love. But we run parallel, and you have to know we chose a passion career. And so we both understand that really well. I always say that too. People are like, how could you marry? And I could never marry somebody in the business. And I was like, I don't actually think I operate in a way that I couldn't, because I'm it's so much a part of my life that I need somebody who like fully gets it, and he fully gets it. And it's awesome. I suggest it. Now, do you and your wife think couldn't work together? Is that what you say?
I don't think we could.
Yeah.
We're very good partners at home. But although she's very supportive and does, the work that I do involves family a lot. Like family can be part of it. So, but I don't know if we could the day to day. I certainly
Totally.
I certainly couldn't give her notes. And right. And hey, this is something you might want to think about. And
Absolutely.
that would work out well.
Oh, and I'm not saying like sometimes we have to help each other with auditions, and us giving each other notes can be hard, because it's like, can I? And so we preface it with like, can I help you with this? Or can I, would you like my help, or would you just like me to be your scene partner? Like we're very good at like kind of problem solving before the problem.
Right.
Because we know that actors, especially actors, we're like really sensitive, and it's like our heart, we're putting our heart out there, and especially because we also want to impress each other. So,
Absolutely. Well, that is one thing we have in common. I still want to impress my wife.
I love that.
Yeah. Caroline, 2014, you received the Alumni Achievement Award What was it like to be recognized by your alma mater in that way?
I was so honored and also like felt so out of my league. I was there and I was like, this, there's something does not belong. Like these people that were getting up and talking about their like companies they started and um scientists and just I don't things I could not wrap my brain around. They were doing because we all had to get up and make a speech and say thank you to our and um I was completely honored but felt way out of my league. And what was funny was talking to the other um a- achievers achievement award winners of that year. They all felt the same way. Like it was kind of awesome. And then I went out and like partied with them afterwards. Like we all like went to Pickles or whatever down the street. Is that the bar that's
Yeah,
downtown?
Pickles, Zeno's.
Yeah, wherever we went. And it was so cool. But and I said it in my speech. I was like, you meet a Penn Stater and you can immediately grab a beer with them. Like you're immediately family. You have like this like camaraderie that is so I think I've never felt a school like that. But obviously I'm biased because I went to Penn State
Absolutely.
and I love Penn State. But um yeah, we're hardcore.
For sure. It's unlike anything anywhere else, right?
Mhm.
This
Yeah,
is the
it's
People
really
of Penn
special.
State. I'm Paul Clifford. I'm joined by Caroline Bowman from the American tour of Frozen, where she plays the starring role of Elsa. So, Caroline, at the end of our podcast, we like to have a little bit of fun with some quick hitter questions. So, can I throw some quick questions at you and you just respond the first thing that comes to mind?
Sure.
All right. How about your favorite class at Penn State?
My favorite class at Penn State. Should I not pick a musical theater class?
Oh, you got to just pick your favorite class and give that faculty member a shout out.
Um, I'm gonna say musical theater history, and it was Susan Russell.
Excellent. Second question: do you want to build a snowman?
Absolutely, every day.
How about your favorite role that you've ever played?
I always get asked this question, and it's always the role that I'm playing at the moment.
Right.
I fall in love with every role that I play. So Elsa.
That's that. People ask me what my favorite sport is, and I normally say whatever season we're in. Right? It's
Yeah.
whatever season is you're following. If you could have dinner with anyone, who would it be and why?
If I could have dinner with anyone, do they have to be living?
They don't.
Okay. This is a deep one and it's not meant to be sad. Okay, I'm prefacing it with that.
Okay.
I lost my sister when I was 3 and she was 6 years old and I would love to have dinner with her and know what she looks like as an adult and like just sit across the table from my sister and be able to love her because I love her so much and she's just my angel.
That's an amazing answer. You talked about the power of the Penn State network and running into Penn Staters. What's your most unusual "we are" moment where either you saw somebody and yelled "we are" or you were wearing Penn State gear and they recognized you as a Penn Stater and yelled out "we are"?
I don't know if it's unusual. I mean, every time I wear my Penn State gear, which I bring on tour with me, I was just in Columbus, Ohio, and I made sure to wear my Penn State hat everywhere I went. And like I went out to sign Elsa. I went out to sign for Elsa, and people were like, "Oh, but you're wearing a Penn State hat," and I was like, "Yeah, man, sorry, I'm in Ohio State territory. I got to represent." But I'm trying to think of unusual. I mean, airports.
Yeah.
I mean, if I'm wearing my hat, I hear "we are." I mean, it's like we're at the stage door, everybody says "we are." most people read it in my bio because I have it in my bio, and they want to like connect with me about Penn State. So, but I wouldn't say it's unusual, but people are wild. I usually say we are, and sometimes it takes people a sec, or like they're not as like it takes them a second because I'm crazy. I'm so loud and whatever, but I'm like usually, come on, let's go, and they like forget. Maybe they forget they're wearing their hat or something.
Right.
But I'm usually the one to yell it at people. So if anybody who's listening to this and I ever yell "we are," please help me out here. Don't leave me hanging. It's like putting a high five up in the air and not following through. I'm like,
exactly.
Oh man.
Exactly. Your favorite flavor of creamery ice cream?
Ooh, I don't know if I remember.
That's okay.
If somebody told me, if I could look up the flavors, I could probably tell you.
What's the general? Is it chocolate? Is it coffee ice cream? Is it?
I mean, I'm a chocolate chip cookie dough gal, but do they have that?
They have chocolate chip cookie dough.
Great, we're gonna go with that.
Okay, there we go. Chocolate chip cookie dough. Caroline, you are a delight to talk to. Thank you so much for joining us on the People of Penn State and allowing us to pass your story on to fellow Penn Staters.
Thank you for having me. This is awesome.
Thanks to our producer, John Petishnock. If you liked this episode, I hope that you will subscribe to the People of Penn State podcast in your favorite podcast app of choice. And while you're there, go ahead and give us a rating and write a review. It helps us spread the word and share the podcast to fellow Penn Staters. If you're a member of the Penn State Alumni Association, thank you for your support. If you're not, what are you waiting for? Go to our website today at alumni.psu.edu, and you too can become a member of the world's largest alumni association. Thank you for listening and for all you do for the university, for the glory, and for the future. We are